Hey, it's Dennis Lindsay with Corcoran Global Living, bringing you your monthly mortgage report. I'm with Kyle Rush, my go-to guy with Guild Mortgage in Carson City. How you doing, Kyle?
Fantastic. Dennis, thank you for inviting me on today.
Not a problem, not a problem. So listen, man, it's been crazy in real estate. I've been in this business a long, long time, but I have never seen it the way it is now. And I've been through a lot of ups and downs, We've got low inventory. We got prices that have risen 30 to 35% over last year. Multiple offers coming in over asking, buyers angry because you can't find anything to buy. How does that reflect, in your mortgage business?
Directly, and we're seeing that the same type of issues right now. Lots of buyers, lots of interest in real estate driven by low interest rates. Challenge, we also have the low inventory. And so it's a very frustrating market, especially for your first-time buyers, because on average, I would venture to guess that right now, most properties going into escrow are being overbid and overpaid by approximately 10%. And that's a significant amount. So it's important to understand that that's the dynamics or the dichotomy of the mortgage market that we're in, or the real estate market that we're in. So how does that play into your home loan when you go to get a loan? And let's say that house doesn't appraise for what you're in contract to purchase it at. The buyer is still allowed to move forward with that scenario, but they have to have the capacity to, right? In other words, when we look at our down payments on a property, we're structuring it based off of the purchase price or the appraised value, whichever is lower. So in the scenario of someone paying over appraised value, that amount that they're paying over is before they place their down payment and before they place their closing costs. So it's an extra expense. The client has to have the capacity to do so. And that's where we're seeing our market be heavily dominated by cash offers or people that are selling properties that have a lot of equity and they can afford to bridge that gap on contract price versus appraised value.
Wow. And you're seeing a lot coming through your business that way?
I would venture to guess that the majority of the contracts having come in are paying over list price and over appraised value. We're still getting some of them that are coming in for list price, but we're also seeing a lot of our appraisals come in below these prices, which is, it's relevant and it makes sense because the appraiser or the value of that home is determined by what has closed, not what is happening or what will close, right? And so you could have, in theory, a property that will ultimately be worth X amount of dollars by the time another couple of homes sell to represent that value.
Mm-hmm.
But until they do, that value is not representative. And the hard part there is the day that cutoff happens on those additional comparables is the day I send my appraiser out to the property. So when you guys are looking at how to structure these best, and if you know there's a comp or a comparable sale that's going to be closing soon, we should really try to tailor our inspection behind the close of that escrow to help our values.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So what's happening with interest rates now?
Interest rates, another very unique portion of the market. To understand what's happening with interest rates, we really kind of have to rewind to a year ago and talk about what's gone on in this very unique period of time in our lives where I've never lived through a global pandemic. I'm pretty sure you haven't either, Dennis. So this is something that's absolutely unique and impacted us in a very big way. So let's go back a year ago, right? We had interest rates fell through the floor because the economy was very shook up by the emergence of COVID-19. And so the Federal Reserve stepped in immediately to try to create some stability and consistency in the interest rate world. And I want you to think of it like this. Us as home buyers, we're excited by low interest rates, right? It means our payments are lower. It means the interest we pay over the life is a lot less. But if we flip our hats around and we think about the fact that there's got to be an investor behind every one of these loans, investors don't get too excited about interest rates less than 3% being paid back to them over 30 years. It's not a very profitable endeavor. So when this first happened back in March of last year, the feds had to step in because there was not an appetite for this low of rates on the secondary market. What the Federal Reserve did is they started doing purchases of mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds. And to put that in perspective, the feds have been buying roughly $120 billion per month for almost a year now. These interest rates sustained in the range of probably 2.5 to 2.8 for the last year up until about January. And the change that happened in January had a lot to do with the solidification of the Congress, Senate, and White House. In other words, the electoral count solidified who is going to be our next president. At that time, the Federal Reserve understands economics very well, right? And they could foresee that with the new administration, we were going to have to probably look at passing a stimulus bill real quick. And fast forward to today, we have. That stimulus bill has to be paid for by the Federal Reserve also, which is about $1.9 trillion. So it indirectly places a sort of pressure on the Federal Reserve to go, is our $120 billion a month in mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds where we need to have that money? And it also depends on what's going on economically. Although I don't know that we've reached herd immunity yet with COVID-19 under any of the large CDC definitions, but we're getting close. What we can say is that our economy has shown a lot of signs of recovery. Unemployment hit over 20%. It's now below 6%. Inflation is measurable, but it's not substantial yet. The stock market's actually higher today than it was prior to the pandemic. So a lot of those indicators that we watch have showed that our economy has started to return to a more normal aspect. And what's important about that is in a normal economy, interest rates are going to be close to 4%. And that's what we're starting to see as these interest rates have trended up since January, up through the last week or so. I think we had roughly it's either the last 4 or 5 days, we've actually seen the Treasury yield drop, which is good. That takes a little pressure off of interest rates. But prior to that, it was almost 9 weeks of consistent increase to interest rates. So now interest rates are hovering still in a fantastic area, mid to low threes. And I was talking with a client earlier today, was really excited. I was able to offer her a 3.5% interest rate and get her a 2% grant. Now that is phenomenal. Wow. Because if you look at the opportunities to have a 3.5% interest rate at all, I know I bought a home about a year ago and got a 3.5% interest rate, and I was very excited. I actually paid, I think, 1/4 point to get that interest rate. Sure. Now today we're telling you that there's grants I can get you that will actually give you money at an interest rate that's still historically amazing. So although interest rates have gone from the lowest point we've ever seen to a higher point, that higher point is still a very, very good range for interest rates.
So to our customers out there, we're going to be showing this to or looking on Facebook. If they wanted to, let's say, do a refinance, is there a threshold point? Like when should they do it?
Yeah, with refinancing, you really, over the years, have kind of pinpointed that you need to save about 1% on your interest rate. You need to have about a 1% reduction in order for that loan to make more sense. Now, that's not the only equation we have to look at. You have to keep in mind that on a mortgage, it's an amortized repayment, which means that the loan starts out at a very high amount of interest with low principal, and they invert over 30 years. So at the end of that loan, you're paying a lot of principal and very little interest, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I was going with that, Dennis.
Oh, it's okay. So if so the interest rates, let's say, what are
we're talking about the threshold, right? So that
what are the interest rates right now?
The idea was that recapture, right? Is we're looking at, we want you with the savings you're taking on with that loan, we want that savings to recapture the cost of that loan in a reasonable period of time. And so as mentioned with the amortization schedule is a lot of that depends as how far you are into your loan as to if it's still worth refinancing. If you're past a halfway point or a third of a percent into that loan, you've paid a large portion of that interest and it may not still be worthwhile. This is a lot of what we look at when we talk to clients about refinancing. But if I had to give you a generality of when your clients should be calling us, I would say that if their interest rates are at 4.5%, or in that vicinity, it's still time to talk with your lender and see if you can save money. If you're around 3%, that's where interest rates are right now. So there's not a lot of saving. Now, to tamper that, there's still a lot of lenders advertising interest rates to get the bites on those clients that may have missed those interest rates over the last year. you have to be very aware of points on a loan. I still have low loan rates that are below 3%, but they do not always make sense with the cost of doing that loan. So it's very
Okay.
important to talk with someone who can kind of digest and understand the mathematics behind that loan and review it and make sure that this refinance is actually providing you benefit.
Okay. Now, if somebody wants to talk to you about, a refinance, how do they get a hold of you?
Excellent question. So my name is Kyle Rush. I work for Guild Mortgage here in Carson City, Nevada. My contact number is 775-885-6892. You can find us on Facebook, Google. If you Google Guild Mortgage, Kyle Rush, Carson City, you'll find us real quick.
Pyramid Lake?
Pyramid Lake, I would love to get up there and catch some fish, bud.
Sounds good. Well, we're going to be bringing you this on a monthly basis. A lot of different topics in the field of mortgage, and we hope that everybody enjoys this. We'll get this out to you right away. Again, I'm Dennis Lindsay, Kyle Rush on that side, Corcoran Global Living, and we'll talk to you next month, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kyle.